Bad lawyer jokes are an old genre, but if you're a consumer, finding a client-focused practice is serious. If you're an attorney, understanding today's ethical duty of care is critical. Anchored by current headlines and showcasing major legal minds, Ethical-ish speaks to consumers and attorneys about the modern, transparent law practice. Sponsored by Case Status, powered by LawPods.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ethical-ish. We're excited to have you here today on the podcast where we pull back the curtain on what makes a modern law firm ethical or not. So we're going to dive into a very provocative topic today, the number one bar complaint. Everyone knows on the surface that it's communications related. But I've brought a couple of friends and experts into the discussion, Ryan McKean and Brittany Green from Best Era, who believe that it's a much deeper conversation than just communications. There's a big root cause. So Ryan and Brittany, welcome to Ethical-ish. Good to have you guys.
Great to be here, Paul.
It's awesome. This is my first now with two guests, so we're going to have a fun dynamic here. So I hope there's lots of interruptions and different points of view, because we're always trying to be provocative on some of these topics that are front and center. But first, let's talk about your expertise. You guys have been working in a couple of different roles over the years. So maybe Ryan, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Best Era, what you guys have done before, and Brittany, if you'll go after Ryan as well, give us an introduction.
Yeah, Paul, at Best Era, we are consultants. We work with law firms and companies in the legal space on building their best era. So we do really bespoke one-off consulting. We have some subscription products, but we also have a very large community. We have a very large Slack community of about 280 lawyers at this point from all over the world who we serve with knowledge and education. And our whole belief is helping empower and really enable lawyers and law firms to enter their best era. And prior to that, I was an attorney and CEO of Connecticut Trial Firm. Brittany and I built up Connecticut Trial Firm to be a real powerhouse personal injury firm before selling my interest last year.
And Brittany, I know that you've had a lot of experience in both roles, with clients being at the center of your world. So maybe give an introduction of your roles at both the law firm and at Best Era.
Absolutely, yes. So as Ryan said, I worked with him previously at Connecticut Trial Firm, and I actually started there. My role and my title was Client Happiness Coordinator, because I was brought on at an earlier stage in their firm when there was not a huge marketing budget. And, Ryan really understood the value in putting the clients first and creating our marketing around that. So yes, started as Client Happiness Coordinator. As we grew and did have a more traditional marketing budget for bigger projects, I did grow into the role of Marketing Coordinator and have done sort of all the traditional things in terms of marketing, from, again, working with the clients all the way up to traditional advertising, billboards, TV. So now, transitioning to Best Era, I do the same for law firms and help them understand what level of marketing are they at, what best ways should they be spending on their marketing, and how is the best way to reach their clients.
I love it. I love that you had a role that was specifically focused on the client relationship, the client happiness, as you called it. I also love that you have taken your model that was successful at Connecticut Trial Firm, and you guys have applied it to helping a much wider audience with, as you say, a lot of folks in the Best Era network. So really cool to understand that background. And so let's dive deep into the idea of the client-attorney relationship. I'll give you guys a quick vignette. I was playing tennis with my son the other day, and there was a flag football team practicing near us. And the coach yelled out to a bunch of 6 and 8-year-old boys and girls, "Hey, what's the most important thing in a relationship?" And 2 kids yelled out. One said communication, the other one said trust. So maybe starting with you, Ryan, it's talking about the client-attorney relationship. Those 6 to 8-year-olds, man, they really knew what they were talking about. But maybe you could talk a little bit about your core framework of what makes the relationship strong in any law firm business, or any business for that matter, when it comes to that client-firm relationship.
Yeah, it's my belief there's a few things that you're working with when a client hires you as a law firm, right? One of which is, believe it or not, and I know it might be hard for your audience, Paul, to believe, but the public does not have the highest esteem for lawyers and attorneys. Okay, so they're inclined not to trust us. Like, that is a problem, right? And also, like, clients have no idea who's a good lawyer and who's a bad lawyer. And, I encourage you, if you don't believe me on this, Google, family lawyer or personal injury lawyer in some city that you're unfamiliar with the bar and lawyers in that bar, and they're all going to look the same to you in one way or another. They're all going to have good reviews. They're all going to have awards, but we know some of these firms probably aren't the best firms, right? So the public has no real idea on how to do that. So when we've looked at things, the public can only assess lawyers on one of two things. And sorry, it's not your trial skills, it's not your brief writing skills. It is communication is number one. That's one way they give you a review, and you can look at reviews for law firms. This firm communicated with me. That's the thing that matters to them. And two, the speed at which you're moving the matter. And so they don't want to feel like you're prolonging things to build them extra money, or they're waiting on money because you're not doing work, which is also a communication problem. Because if you're like, hey, this is how long it's going to take, this is what's going to be involved, then they're okay with it. So the only way a firm can build trust is with communication. And at Connecticut Trial Firm, we prioritize this. We front loaded this. We had something like 90 touches in the first 30 days. Emails, calls, automated messages, welcome packets, handwritten notes, all of those things, because we wanted to show the clients that they could trust us. They could communicate with us. We were responsive to them. And really, at its core, that's what built great relationships, grew our business, and ultimately allowed us to get great results for our clients.
All right. So I think you've applied it. Do you agree with the 6 and 8 year olds? They had it nailed then. You mentioned both about communications and trust, which I guess you can't have a bar complaint around trust because the ABA rules don't have a model rule of trust. But in all of those aspects that you talk about, there is a trust factor that is huge. Well, let's come back to that. And maybe, Brittany, you could build on sort of this idea of happiness. How do you sort of measure the happiness and maybe start a little step up of what is the state of the consumer, right? The client is an everyday person like me or you. And to Ryan's point, I kind of hope not to have to ever hire a lot of the attorneys that we talk about, but someday life events may take me down that path. So what is the state of the consumer? We have post-COVID going on. We've got a current political landscape, a lot of anxiety out there with the case and otherwise. What challenges does this present in a modern era with the legal team in your point of view?
Right. I mean, we're battling with consumers who we've been in this Amazon Prime sort of era for a while, right? So clients want this fast, efficient service, right? We're just so used to getting almost anything from groceries to new clothes to services, even delivering day of, right? So they have these levels of expectations from almost anything that they can get online. They also have this expectation of doing everything through digital means, right? But then there is this now level of anxiety from people of between AI and deep fakes and stuff like, who can I trust? Is my information confidential? Right. So we do have to think like a consumer when we are dealing with them. And we need to adopt certain AI technologies, right, to make sure we're being fast, we're being efficient, we're offering them the ability to do all of their legal services online instead of face to face, while also finding ways to stay deeply human with them, right? Those happiness touches that we talk about. So those physical mailers of and welcome packages, keeping in touch on their actual physical lives, their personal lives, right? Them getting married and sending them gifts when they're having a baby or when a family member passes away. Embedding those into all of the fast, efficient online communications and workings of their case is what's going to build the trust into the customer service efficiency side of things.
So that's a very interesting dichotomy, in my opinion, Brittany, is this idea of using technology to be more human, using systems to bring out the humanity in the relationship. Ryan, this has been a big part of your philosophy, is where to use technology. And I think embedded in that conversation is the scale that Brittany's hitting on. But maybe you could talk a little bit about, the technology role that I think that's a counterintuitive idea for a lot of people. How can technology make me more human? Ryan, have any perspectives of where you've seen it in real life use cases where that's actually the fact, where you can bring that humanity out and forward in an organization doing more with less when you think about people and the resources that we have?
Sure. And October, come Halloween of this year, I'll have been a lawyer for 20 years. And the profession has changed and society has changed profoundly in that 20 years. And it used to be that the clients had to fit into the lawyer's life. So it would be, I've got a hearing, I've got this. Okay, I can get you in next Friday, right? I can get back to you next Friday. Email wasn't even as prevalent when I started in 2005. But, you know, now where it is app based, it is 24/7. People want answers and they want answers very, very quickly. And so if you're going to meet the customer expectation of what they generally experience, because we tell clients all the time, look, they're not comparing you to the firm down the road. They're not comparing you to your biggest competitor. They're comparing you to Amazon. They're comparing you to Apple. So if you order something from Apple, it's like update, notification. I flew Delta last week. It's like, oh, your bags are on the plane. Here's your gate, right? Not in it's human because it is respecting my time, right? It is not wasting my time. And so when you're leveraging technology and at a very basic level, Paul, like e-sign and Zoom and things like that, you are respecting their time because you're not causing them to divert from their life, to have to come essentially yield to your needs, right? You are fitting in on their life. So that is a tremendous act of empathy and real hospitality in today's world, which is frictionless service and representation in the legal space.
Yeah, hospitality. I know you guys have used that not just as symbolism, but also in sort of the essence DNA of what Best Era is all about, and getting your family of firms to adopt. Maybe speak a little bit about that too, Brittany, on the hospitality front. When we talk about the brand, and it's not just the one-on-one relationship. I know you guys have preached a lot about where overall communications and just client trust comes out in every angle of the practice of the law firm. Maybe talk a little bit about your philosophies there that have been successful for you and Ryan in your practice.
Yeah, I mean, from a marketing front, in that way, as you talk about brand, that was always at the forefront of what we wanted our brand to be, what we wanted our voice to be, right? When we think about who our ideal client is, we always wanted to speak to that ideal client in a way that was going to provide value. And that truly meant from every marketing aspect, whether it was a Facebook post, a newsletter, or something, one-on-one, as you talked about, right? So in every call or text to that client, like, we are thinking about ways to provide value for that person. When I say value, I don't just mean, 5 things to do and if you get in a car accident, where it doesn't, educational content information isn't necessarily what these clients want in terms of value. They just want to be know that you are caring about them, that you empathize with them, you understand what they're going through, and finding ways to give them information that makes sense for them, right? We want to assume that every client that comes in contact with us is someone that's never ever used a lawyer before, right, in their life. So we want to come at every aspect of our marketing assuming those sort of things.
Yeah, and I've even heard you guys talk about you could be at a restaurant with a total stranger that's your waiter or waitress, right? I mean,
Mhm.
your brand emanates from those moments as well. It's everything you do.
And we had our hospitality conference down in beautiful Charleston at K Status, which was fantastic. And one of the points that Will Guadera's team was making is hospitality is how you make people feel. Service is what you do, right? So you file the complaint, you get the medical records, like that is service, and it's certainly a component of hospitality. But when anybody out there is going through a legal problem, they feel anxiety. They want to feel safe. Right? They want to feel like they're being protected, that their case is being advanced, whether it's a criminal case or a divorce or a personal injury case. They want to feel safe because they fundamentally feel unsafe. Something has happened. So the way in which lawyers can make them feel safe, it's not by, going to the gym and, coming out looking like The Rock or something. That's not going to work. The way in which you make them feel safe is through communication, through education, through responsiveness. And so, really thinking about responsiveness, communication, explanation, education as hospitality, I think is a key mindset that successful firms need to adopt.
In this discussion of ethical-ish, I mean, what I hear is this is just good business. This is an approach to take. Even though the ABA talks about communications and the number one bar complaint is communications, what I hear you guys saying is it's not about trying to stay on the good side of the bar. It's not about trying to stay on the ethics side of legal practice. It's about good business. Is that a fair comment, fair statement?
Absolutely.
I tell my UConn law students where I teach legal entrepreneurship, I say, look, I'm like the rules of professional conduct are great business advice codified. So as you read them, think of them as business lessons to you. You know, be diligent, like do good work, talk to your clients, don't, commit crimes, don't steal their money. Like it's all very basic things that if you not only want to be ethical, but if you just want to have a good business that you're going to comply with and you're going to, that is the floor of what you have to do. That sets the floor. You're going to try to greatly exceed those things. And really, the level of success you have is how much you exceed the floor on all of those various ethical points.
I also think, as you know, this is obviously always a conversation now on LinkedIn, anywhere you go. With the rise of AI technologies, I mean, it's becoming more and more apparent by the day that there are going to be tools out there that any lawyer can utilize, right? And many lawyers who don't choose to adopt these things are going to get swept away and not hired, and there's just going to be less need for more lawyers at each law firm. And what's going to become prevalent is the people that can take those bare floor, basic minimum ethical behaviors and find the ways that we can ramp them up and make them even better for our clients and for our law firms. They're the ones that are going to, succeed in this rise of AI taking over job responsibilities.
Yeah, well, the AI is no doubt going to help us in our pursuits of getting work done, right? It's still
Mhm.
got the oversight of the legal team, which I think is great. Where you see it successfully being deployed is an assistant level. It really is, no matter
Mhm.
what use case you look at, which I think, Brittany, to your point, is super powerful. Well, where this comes down. So, again, from my layman's point of view, I would venture to say I kind of wish it was unethical if you have 48-hour response times to me. Like I wish that was out front and center to the, if I was shopping for an attorney to know, oh, this attorney doesn't have a service level agreement that guarantees within 24 hours a response or transparency or education, everything that Ryan's talking about. But I get what you're talking about. It's a little bit of a slippery slope for us everyday people to try to find those firms that truly are taking that idea of the modern consumer and modern technology and applying it to being a more human practice.
And to me, one of the big market distortions, as I talk over the last 20 years that has happened, is an increasing transparency for the consumer. I can tell you that even 10 years ago, really before the massive rise of Google reviews, I would go to a lot of conferences and there was nobody talking about client service or customer service. It was simply like they were the afterthought. And then reviews started really happening. And boy, did that change the game. And what we've seen from firm after firm, when we start talking to them about client service, customers, they get it. They fear that 1 star. They want that 5 star. They understand it's good business. They're not taking their clients for granted. They know that reputation is everything. So that level of transparency has changed. And, if you're a legal consumer out there, absolutely go check reviews. Always read them with a grain of salt. Some of them may be people's friends. Some of them may be spam reviews left by some competitor. But look at some themes that go on. And actually, Google is now doing a good job summarizing the themes in over hundreds of reviews, but like look at the lowest. And if you're like, doesn't communicate, I can tell you as a lawyer, the reason the firm isn't communicating is because they're not doing work. It's, hey, I'll get this to you on Friday. And Friday comes and it doesn't happen. And then the client's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and nobody's responding because they have nothing to respond about. So those are the real telltale signs to me of a healthy organization. So if you're out there and you're confused, really look for communication over the course of a bunch of clients in reviews, like thematically. One person's always going to be upset, maybe two, but if that's a reoccurring theme, run.
Yeah, even in that case, it's always good to see how the law firm responds, right?
Yeah.
The response to the bad review, because you can't eradicate all of those, and not every client is serviceable in many ways, right? We talk about that in any service business. So love the conversation. Maybe bringing it home. I've got one more question, kind of coming back to the idea that 20 years ago when you started practice, Ryan, do you remember what the number one bar complaint was? Was it communication? Is it still communication? What's it going to take for us as an industry to eradicate, at least put it down to number two, right? Like this just feels like an Elvis Presley hit that's been there month after month at the top of the charts. I want to knock it down. How do we do it?
It was communication then, and I still think it is going to always be communication. And sort of here's why. Like, not all lawyers to practice law, you need a client. Like, that is like foundationally, definitionally in Connecticut. You need a client. I helped set that law, but you need a client, right? And but different lawyers, like many lawyers don't touch trust fund accounting. They may work in a firm that does that for them. They're not in charge of marketing. They don't have statutes of limitations to blow because they don't litigate, right? So communication is the thing that goes, whether you're doing wills, you're working with big clients, you're working with small clients, that's always going to be the thing that is there. So I don't know that it's ever going to not be the number one complaint, but boy, if you're getting complaints about your communication and your firm is getting them, like that is a deep warning sign. Like that is like, 5 alarm fire that something is off in your firm, in your delivery, in your tech, in your people. You should find and fix that problem, because my guess is it's like the canary in the coal mine. Once you see it and you start opening up files and you're like, work's not being done. This isn't happening. That's not happening. Listen to that canary.
I agree. I think that it is addressable. So the call to action to our audience, if you're a law firm professional, is we can make a change within our firms. I think you've proven that not only at Connecticut Trial Firm, the two of you, but also in your efforts to help a lot of law firms through Best Era. And I think that is at the core mission of what we're trying to do here, sponsoring this podcast, Case Status. By the time this airs, we will have our first CX report, client experience report, and our first CX Summit announcement, Client Experience Summit, because we're trying to bring that focus to everything that you are talking about, not only current state, but what's the future of it? Where does AI play a role? Data play a role? Ethics play a role? It's a very good discussion, and I will go against you a little bit, Ryan, which is I hope that we see it knocked down to number two. I don't know what I hope that becomes number one in its place. So maybe you're right. Maybe communication is the best one to have as a number one. But we're certainly on a mission. I know you guys are, we are, to try to knock it down a peg or two and at least give firms that really understand that relationship with the client's at the center of it, the opportunity to be able to try to address that. And again, I think your story is one that's awesome, that people should check you out. So kind of bringing it home, we'll talk a little bit about all the great things that you guys are doing at Best Era, but where's the best place to learn a little bit about more of where you guys are practicing, how to get involved, to learn more about what you're doing to address all of these core communication and trust challenges that firms have?
Absolutely. And thank you, Paul, for having us both on. Our favorite place to communicate with our community is our Best Era Slack channel. You can sign up for $1 a day. There's almost 300 lawyers nationally on there. We have amazing conversations ranging from everything, client happiness to SEO to intake to hiring, every little thing. Wordle even. We all play Wordle in there every day. Ryan has an amazing link of the day he shares there, which provides tons of value. So we can share that in the show notes. You can also, of course, just find us bestera.io if you want to learn more about us as a whole. And we will also link in the show notes our Calendly link, because we'd love to chat with you guys. If you feel like Ryan or I or someone on our team can help you in your firm.
And Brittany, we have our Eras tour this fall. And that's going to be stopping in Charleston at the CX conference sometime this fall. I'm not going to give out the dates because I don't think it's been announced, but we will be down in lovely Charleston with the Case Status folks.
Well, I will give you some reprieve there, Ryan. And by the time this airs, it will be announced, and it'll be September 24th, I believe, is the official date. So we'll make sure to follow up on that, get it right in the notes, or edit this out if it's the wrong dates. But yeah, I think check out Brittany and Ryan on the circuit. I couldn't agree more and attest to the Slack conversation. My favorite channel is the Water Cooler channel. Really, anything is up for discussion about law firm success, client success. So knowing that you guys are on a mission in helping out that relationship was awesome, going down and discussing this provocative topic, and look forward to catching up with y'all on this at some point in the future. For those of you listening, we appreciate you joining another episode of Ethical-ish. We hope that you check out some of the previous episodes, but also subscribe. If you like what you hear on this session of Ethical-ish, we hope to hear from you a little bit more by subscribing or liking what you see. We publish all of our podcasts on all of the most popular podcast websites. So check us out, and we will see you again on one of the future episodes. Brittany, Ryan, thank you so much for being part of our discussion. Look forward to some more of those discussions in the future.
Thank you for having us, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Lawyers and legal consumers, you are our audience and our biggest strength. If you find Ethical-ish a good investment of your time, please spread the word. Until next time. Sponsored by Case Status, powered by LawPods.